Hello and welcome to EAC, the movie, TV show, and video game review channel that hopefully gives you a little bit of a basis on whether one of those things is good or bad. Today we are going to be reviewing Gravity, which came out in 2013, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, something like that. I know I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, and I'm sorry if you're offended by that in any way, shape, or form. And it also stars Sandra Bullock and George Clooney as two astronauts who encounter some trouble in space while they're on their shuttle doing regular space work. I mean, the beginning of this movie is basically them just working on their shuttle, and I have no idea what's going on. But what seems like safety soon turns into terror for our characters when a crashed satellite sends debris their way, crashing into their shuttle, killing some of their crew members, and sending them into a frenzy to get back to Earth without dying. So I saw this movie a couple of years ago. I didn't see it in theaters. I did not really have any interest to see this movie. I saw it when we got the DVD for Christmas. My sister actually wanted the DVD because she saw the movie in theaters and she liked it. And I really didn't have an interest to see this movie. I mean, it was 6 years ago again. And when I saw it, when she watched the DVD, I watched it too, and I was amazed. I thought it was so awesome, from the characters to the special effects. The special effects are so amazing, and it really makes you feel like you're actually there inside the mind of the characters. And that's not just because there are a lot of POV shots and a lot of inside the space helmet shots. It's just the sound in this movie is amazing. Of course, there's no sound in space, and there actually has a little bit of a text of that at the beginning, showing you how dangerous space can really be, like no oxygen, no sound, nothing like that. But the use of sound in this movie that the director put into it is awesome. I mean, when stuff crashes into a space shuttle, there's no sound, but they add in this really unsettling music that really hits you. It's like if the word warped had a sound, then this would be it. It's really, I can't explain that. You just have to see the movie. And again, it came out 6 years ago. And it's also called down there one of the best movies of the year by many critics and many different magazines, stuff like that. And for good reason. It is such an amazing movie. I think it deserves that title of one of the best movies of 2013. And right here, I am going to be getting into some spoilers. So if you haven't seen one of the best movies of 2013, then you could either go watch the movie and come back to finish this video, or not care about the spoilers at all, because again, you should know plenty about this movie that came out in 2013. So I don't have any main issues with this movie. The only one is when George Clooney, his character, dies. He floats away because he can't get to, he's like pulling Sandra Bullock's character, who is tethered to him with one of those ropes that's attached to their spacesuits, and he is kind of drifting away, and he says that he has to unhook the thing or else he's going to take her with her, and she's holding on to the space shuttle parachute, whatever you call that, and all the space nerds are raging at me right now. The giant parachute, just see the movie again. She is holding on by 1 foot of that, and George Clooney is like, you have to let me go, I'm pulling you back. So he unhooks the thing and floats off, and they're able to talk a little bit because, you know, it's not like right when he unhooks it, he's gonna die. Like, he floats away, and he obviously dies in the end. And he really didn't need to do that. He could have just pulled himself a little bit and then would float towards the space shuttle, saving himself and Sandra Bullock's character. But nope, there just had to be a sacrifice in this movie. So Sandra Bullock is obviously devastated by this because he has been kind of a mentor or a father figure. From very little we got to see of these characters. It takes place entirely in space except for the end when, spoiler alert, Sandra Bullock does get back to space. I already warned you about that, but again, it's Gravity. You should have seen it by now if you haven't. But you really start to feel that Sandra Bullock's character is really attached to him teaching her different stuff while being in space, because George Clooney is a veteran space pilot, and Sandra Bullock is pretty new with this, so he is teaching her a lot of stuff, what to do, what not to do in space. And when he finally unhooks and drifts away, she's kind of panicking a little bit, and I do like that part. The thing I don't like is, one, I already talked about how he does sacrifice himself, and two, later in the movie, she is in a shuttle, and she kind of gives up. She makes it to another space station where she could kind of take refuge, and nothing goes right there. It catches fire. Everything just goes wrong in this movie, and she's on kind of a wild goose chase to find a shuttle that she can actually make it back to Earth in. And she's in a little pod, but nothing is working. Like, the fuel is done. I mean, she can't get back to Earth, and nothing is going right. So she just turns off the oxygen, the CO2, O2, all of that. She turns it off in the little pod that she's in to basically kill herself. And George Clooney appears outside the window of the shuttle floating, and he knocks on the window and he tries to get in, and she lets him in, and it kind of hints at it is a hallucination, but it does hint at it because he opens the door, and outside is space, and Sandra Bullock doesn't have a helmet on, and she doesn't die, so it's kind of like, there's something up with this. And then it does end up being a hallucination. But there's one thing that George Clooney told her. He says about when you land the shuttle, that can help you get to the next place, because she's trying to get to another space station, I think the Chinese one, and she can't get there because she has no fuel. But if you use the landing technique that you would usually use on that pod, you could get over there somehow. I have no idea. But he tells her this, and it's a hallucination. So she wakes up from the hallucination, and she's like, oh, the landing thing. Like, I can get over there. So she turns on the oxygen again and is able to get over there. But this is a hallucination. Like, it wasn't really George Clooney telling her what to do. It was just a vision. So did she know this the whole time and just thought of it as if George Clooney told her? I have no idea. Like, it just doesn't make sense when you think about it. So that's mainly one of the big flaws of this movie that I didn't really like. I rewatched it actually earlier today because I haven't seen it in a little while, and that was one of the things I remember from last time I didn't really get, and then it just kind of stuck out like a sore thumb when I rewatched it, because the rest of the movie is pretty much perfect with this premise that is pretty hard to make a good movie with, being in space. I mean, and making it realistic, of course. And yeah, Alfonso Cuarón, whatever it is, he did an awesome job. And also, there is another scene when Sandra Bullock is floating out in space and needs to get to a space shuttle. So she uses the fire extinguisher in her hands to pull a Wally and get over to the thing that she needs to do. And I mean, I think that works in real life. I mean, Wall-E did, but obviously that's an animated movie that isn't real. She pulls a Wall-E and is able to use the fire extinguisher to kind of steer herself over to the space shuttle. And I was like, that could work, but just seeing what the rest of this movie did with how realistic it is, it kind of seemed a bit cartoony, if that makes sense. But it doesn't bother me that much because I bet you could do it in real life. But I don't know, I don't think it really fit in. I think that part should have just kind of been left out and just have her crashing into the space shuttle again, slamming her face and being able to get into the space shuttle without the whole fire extinguisher thing. But overall, this movie is basically flawless with its characters. It doesn't have any flashbacks to past events. It's all just through telling the person, and it kind of makes sense because George Clooney and Sandra Bullock aren't friends. Like, they don't know each other. So she kind of tells her story when George Clooney is talking to her. He's like, so is there anyone down at Earth that's looking up at space thinking of you? I think he said something like that. And she told it. And I was like, you could see that as a lazy way to dump exposition. But you gotta think, like, they gotta be doing that up in space right now, you know, telling each other about their families, doing stuff like that, telling their backstory, so to say. And I think it just kind of worked. So the characters didn't bother me. The special effects were amazing. The sound design was awesome. It was fairly realistic, again, besides that fire extinguisher, which seemed a little cartoony to me. And also, the hallucination kind of bothered me a little bit. I thought it was a great reveal of him not actually being there, of him really still being dead, and it was just a hallucination. But just the whole landing thing, like, oh, I could use the landing thing to get back to whatever spaceship she needed to. But overall, this was a great movie to start this channel with, because this is my first video, and I can't wait to make more videos in the future, movie reviews, TV show reviews, video game reviews, and all other types of videos that I will be doing on this channel. But this was a great way to start. I thought one of the best movies of 2013, and I'm going to be giving every single movie, every single TV show, every single video game, anything like that, I'm going to be giving it a grade out of 10, and I think Gravity gets an 8.5 out of 10. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. Look forward to more videos from me in the future, all different types of videos involving movies and all the stuff I just talked about. But anyways, want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see you all later. Goodbye.